Do you regret ever getting involved in?
I didn't have a choice. It got bad when I was about 15 years old because when I did MTV Cribs, the day that I had to go show off that house, my mom and my dad told me, we're getting a divorce. You still have to go do this. I had to go show off all the stuff my whole life that was going to be taken.
8 men and 4 women. The prosecution delivered its opening statement and they came out swinging. Prosecutor Emily Johnson said the public knew Diddy as a larger-than-life business mogul, but behind the scenes, he was forcing women into sex using vagas and drugs to keep them in line. She said Combs had an inner circle that helped him commit sex crimes, drug crimes, other crimes, things like arson and kidnapping. And then came the graphic details from what we now know are called the freak-offs, where Diddy allegedly recorded sexual encounters that he'd arranged between paid escorts and his alleged victims, including his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. When it was the defense's turn, they didn't deny Diddy's temper. They said, yes, he can be violent. They admitted that. Remember, that's not what he's on trial for. They said, yes, he's got anger issues, and his actions might warrant domestic violence charges. It was clever that they said that. But trafficking and racketeering, again, that's what the federal case is about. The defense says those don't apply. And all that freak-off sex, according to the defense, they say it was consensual. They said that Diddy's love of baby oil, and this was actually a quote, they said the love of baby oil was not a federal crime. Cassie Ventura did not take the stand today. She is expected to be there tomorrow, and she better soon. This is another very interesting part of all of this. She is about to give birth to her 3rd child any minute now, and she's about to get on the witness stand, about to have a baby. Another twist. 2 witnesses were called today, including a former security officer at the hotel, where Diddy is seen on video attacking Ventura brutally.
It appears that Diddy's legal team has grown even more certain that their client will lose as a result of the shocking new accusations of what Diddy did to Aaron Carter.
They all partied with Diddy. It's hard for me to truly get invested in what's happening to Liam Payne right now because I haven't gotten over what happened to Nick. Nick's brother, Aaron Carter.
Right.
A lot of people keep forgetting Aaron Carter was begging for help, begging for independent financing, begging for security.
Aaron is claimed to have drowned in his bathtub in 2022, although many people do not believe this. What if someone drowned in their own bathtub? The problem is that, according to certain stories, Aaron Carter was on the verge of exposing Diddy's freak-offs 3 years ago, but he was killed before he could do so. Later on, we shall discuss that in further detail. However, Diddy is now facing consequences as additional witnesses testify about his alleged transgressions.
The first week of the testimony in the Safe Tragedies trial against Sean Combs ended with a former member of one of Combs' musical groups on the witness stand. Dawn Richard says that she saw Combs attack Cassie Ventura in 2009. Richard is suing Combs in federal court, accusing him of sexual assault and battery. She'll be back on the witness stand on Monday. Richard's civil lawsuit is still pending. Does that impact how these attorneys approach her if they try to color this as some way of I guess, supporting her civil case? How does that difference impact the approach to these witnesses?
I think that can be argued either way. For instance, where the fact that Ms. Ventura's case, her civil case is already settled and the money's already been received, to me, that doesn't count against her. Perhaps it counts to her credibility because she chose to participate in the criminal trial anyway. However, where Ms. Richard is concerned, the fact that she is participating when, frankly, a criminal conviction may harm her ability to recover. It may harm harm Mr. Combs' ability to have the finances, the funding to be able to pay any recovery. So there are risks either way. I just think that as people are watching, they need to remember trials involve humans, and humans are messy. So you don't have any purity tests in terms of your witness is on the stand and has never done anything wrong, or your defendant is on the stand and has never done anything right. There's a lot going on both sides, and it really is up to the jury to ferret that out as long as they're given the right facts and the proper instructions.
Diddy is facing some very severe charges. According to the authorities, he managed a clandestine organization that was involved in unlawful acts, including moving people across states, hiding money, abusing his notoriety and power for illicit ends, and attacking his ex. And now everyone in the country is watching. We have seen terrible disclosures in just 1 week. Workers for Diddy came forward. Cassie's best friend and Don Richards also testified.
Don Richard said, "You've met with government prosecutors 8 times over the last year and a half. And over the course of those 8 meetings, you've changed your story at least 4 times when it comes to multiple incidents." And Richard acknowledged that her story has changed. And she said that it's really just about her memory, that she tried to block all of these things out, and that she's been trying to remember, and all of these meetings with prosecutors has helped her. But it was not good for her that her story has changed so many times. And then they also doubled down on the fact that she has filed her own civil suit seeking money from Combs.
Chloe, we know Cassie Ventura's former best friend is also testifying today. What has she said so far?
So her name is Carrie Gordon, and when Cassie Ventura was on the stand last week, she talked a lot about this friend of hers that witnessed a lot of the abuse, and that this was someone that she confided in. And Miss Gordon, she's already taken the stand for a few hours. Right now they're on a lunch break, and she's expected to return this afternoon. And she said, "Look, I don't really even want to be here. I was given a subpoena. I'm forced to be here to testify. I haven't spoken to Combs or Miss Ventura since 2018, and that's because Combs assaulted me."
What the FBI found in his homes was put on display. Diddy's lawyers are retaliating forcefully.
Breaking news, the Department of Homeland Security has just confirmed to CNN that federal law enforcement agents have raided properties owned by musician and producer Sean Diddy Combs. Let's bring in CNN security correspondent Josh Campbell and CNN legal analyst Joey Jackson. Josh, let me start with you. What do these raids by federal agents in multiple locations tell you about the seriousness of this investigation?
Yeah, Wolf, a very significant development here, seeing this law enforcement action taking place. I'll point out, just to be clear at the outset, we don't know that Sean Diddy Combs himself is the subject or target of a federal investigation. So it's just worth pointing that out at this hour. But what we do know is that 2 properties associated with him, we saw the feds descend on those properties. We saw in aerial footage, federal agents both here in the Los Angeles area as well as in Miami at those residences. Now, the Department of Homeland Security, their what's called HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, gave CNN a statement. I'll read you part of that when asked about what this activity is. They say that earlier today, HSI New York executed law enforcement actions as part of an ongoing investigation with assistance from HSI Los Angeles, HSI Miami, and our local law enforcement partners. That is it, confirming that they are conducting what they're deeming law enforcement action, which could indicate search warrants being conducted there, could indicate arrests being conducted. We just don't know at this hour specifically what that law enforcement action is. It is worth pointing out, though, that Combs himself obviously has faced significant legal woes in recent months. I'll give you just the highlights of what actually occurred. In November, he was sued for roof and abuse by a former partner. That lawsuit was then settled very quickly. But in December, he faced sexual assault allegations in a complaint filed in the Southern District of New York. The suit was brought by a woman referred to as Jane Doe, who said that she was 17 at the time when these allegations took place back in 2003.
This is not a single man's trial. It is about the harmful ways in which money and power can be utilized. According to the government, Diddy was not working alone. They think he oversaw a team of individuals who assisted him in committing crimes like narcotics trafficking, evictions, and money laundering. When federal officials raided Diddy's properties in Miami and Los Angeles, the case became even more serious. They stole money, computers, hard drives, and even confidential documents. This is a serious matter. Homeland Security, the IRS, and the FBI are among the large federal agencies involved.
What the feds had collected, at least in part. We also learned the charges that Diddy faced: racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. And again, Diddy's pleaded not guilty and denies those allegations. But this indictment, this OG indictment, which by the way, there's been a couple of superseding ones, adding a couple of charges here and there. Anyway, going back to the holy grail of it all, the original indictment, that's where we learned about what was collected, including all of that lube and baby oil. And all of this leads us straight back to the freak-offs and the civil cases that preceded the federal search warrants and then eventually the indictment. So Cassie, I know I talk about Cassie all the time, but we wouldn't be here were it not for Cassie. And Cassie's lawsuit is the one that first mentioned freak-offs. We heard about them again from Lil Rod. We've seen them in multiple different civil suits now. And additionally, in the federal indictment. And here's how the Fed specifically explained freak-offs, quote, "Freak-offs were elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, Matt-traded during, and often electronically recorded." Now, they also listed a couple of items that were used during these freak-offs, at least according to the Feds. They said that there were controlled substances used, and this was specifically to allegedly keep the victims obedient and compliant. The Feds also state that during these freak-off situations, recording devices were used. Now, sometimes the people involved in the freak-offs, allegedly, didn't know that they were being recorded. And then other times, Diddy and his team, allegedly, would use these recordings as revenge porn and say, hey, if you come forward and report this to anyone, we've got this really embarrassing video. Why would you do that? So that's an allegation too. The Feds also say that IV fluids were used in all of this, specifically because the people involved in the freak-offs had to recover from physical exertion and drug use.
The charges are now in court with actual attorneys, judges, and witnesses, so these are not simply old stories. Additionally, a few of those witnesses are beginning to speak. The appearance of Aaron Carter in court during the first week was one unexpected event. In 2022, vocalist Aaron Carter departed this life. He had discussed issues facing the music industry before his passing. He said that influential people attempted to intimidate or control him in tweets and videos he shared, how his life was out of his hands.
I go on my Twitter and I see people saying, you look like you have AIDS, you should go die. I don't understand how I dedicated 22 years of my life to my fans, and now they turn.
One witness testified in court that Aaron had made an effort to alert people to what was happening behind the scenes. The lawyers did not claim that he was involved in Aaron's death. Instead, they said that his mother was likely responsible for the unexplained circumstances surrounding his death.
The mother of singer Aaron Carter doesn't believe he died from a drug overdose and wants his death investigated further. I'm Anjanette Levy, and welcome back to Sidebar here on Law and Crime. Aaron Carter was found dead in a bathtub in his home in Los Angeles last November. Since that time, TMZ has reported the LA County coroner did not find water in his lungs, meaning he didn't drown. Carter's mother, Jane Schneck, posted photos on Facebook that show the bathroom where her son was found. She wrote on Facebook, "Because of my son's mental illness and prescription drug issues, they, the cops, just wanted it to be something easy that they didn't have the time or inclination to address." Schneck wants a more thorough investigation. She wrote that her son was receiving threats from many people, and she believes there were people out there who wanted to harm him. So joining me to discuss this issue and the death of Aaron Carter is Joseph Scott Morgan. He's a forensic death investigator and also the host of the Body Bags podcast. Joseph, welcome back to Sidebar. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Anjanette. Good to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about Aaron Carter's death. He was found in a bathtub in his home. We see from these photographs that there was some discoloration in the water. I have a feeling that was probably from his body releasing fluids following his death. So what can we glean thus far, aside from the fact that he didn't drown? They didn't find water in his lungs, according to this report by TMZ.
Well, if you're talking about the death investigation itself, we can glean the fact that they haven't come back with toxicology results yet. So at this point, and as you know, medical examiners and coroners are, I don't want to use the term notorious, but it takes time for these things to be fully realized because these tests take time. You don't, in a death investigation, you don't want things hurried up. And it seems as though some parties that are involved in this case want it sped up. And that's the most dangerous thing you can do.
However, they allegedly mentioned Aaron's name to suggest that perhaps more people were aware of the issue but were hesitant to speak up. People on the internet were surprised by this incident. According to others, Aaron's tales were disregarded throughout his lifetime. It appears that some of his statements are now being given more weight. There was tension in the courtroom. Diddy's attorneys arrived prepared to battle. His primary attorney said that the entire case was unjust. He informed the judge that Diddy is being made to appear guilty by the government through the use of old tales and media hearsay.
Can't imagine it's thousands. I mean, you know, and I'm not really sure what the baby oil has to do with anything. I don't know where the number 1,000 came.
Baby oil, more than 1,000 bottles altogether.
He has been ready to defend this case since he first found out about this case.
Diddy's case causing online chatter over the shocking discovery. The rapper's attorney telling all to TMZ as the outlet dives deep into the ongoing trial in their documentary, The Downfall of Diddy, The Indictment, streaming on Tubi.
They're essentially saying it's a lubricant for an orgy.
I guess. I don't know what you need 1,000. One bottle of baby oil goes a long way. I don't know what you need 1,000 for.
Yeah, it's the number of bottles going viral on social media, with Diddy's longtime nemesis, 50 Cent, dropping this meme on X. Meanwhile, Diddy's defense team offers this explanation.
I mean, he has a big house he buys in bulk. You know, I think they have Costco's in every place where he has a home. I mean, have you sat in a parking lot of a Costco and see what people walk out of there with?
TMZ reached out to Costco. Their rep says none of their newest locations carry baby oil.
He believes he's innocent. I believe he's innocent. And we're going to fight this case with all of our might until we don't have to fight any longer. We're not giving up by a long shot. I told Mr. Combs I'm going to try and get his case to trial as quickly as possible. I don't think it was 1,000. Let's just say it's a lot, okay?
Let's discuss some of the details with Joey Jackson. He's a CNN legal analyst, a former prosecutor as well. Joey, thanks so much for being with us. This is Sean Combs' third try to get out on bail. Do you think he has a better chance this time around?
So he may, Boris. Good to be with you. And here's why. You heard Elizabeth reference the issue of the recording, and here's why it's significant in terms of its manipulation. Just to reset, the critical to his denial on bail were really two factors. The one factor related to him being a danger to the community. The other factor being how he would potentially obstruct witnesses. Now, critical in the prosecutor's arguments at those previous hearings was the fact that there's this tape that everyone has seen, and they said, prosecutors did, that tape was in the context of a freak-off. It was in the context of sex trafficking. It was in the context of him being violent as it related to that count in the indictment against Miss Ventura, right, who's referred to as victim one. But here now comes the defense saying, hey, by the way, the prosecution has misled you, court. This had nothing to do with a freak-off, as is alleged, which were the parties that he was allegedly having, that is P. Diddy, with all of these instances going on with coerced sexual activity, etc., had nothing to do with that. It also had nothing to do with sex trafficking, meaning this was a domestic dispute. Now, it doesn't make the violence in the tape, Boris, any more tenable, right? Violence is violence, it shouldn't have happened, but it gives it context. Now, when you get down to the manipulation of the tape, the reordering of the tape, did you mislead the court? If they did, that's a factual question. A judge won't be too happy. Second brief point, and that is, they're also arguing, the defense team, that there's the issue concerning his ability to prepare and be ready for trial. If you're going through and rummaging through his notes and other records that are attorney-client privileged and peeping at them and looking at them and using them against them, how could he prepare for trial?
Diddy's attorney yelled at one point that the raids were carried out to provide drama for the cameras. Before the trial had began, he said Diddy was being treated as though he was guilty. This is not fair, he declared. It is a show. His side is currently battling to prevent the display of additional evidence. He claimed that there is no concrete evidence, just people vying for attention. The government attorneys, on the other hand, also made a solid case. They claimed that this is a pattern rather than a rumor. They think Diddy was in charge of a gang that transported people between states, provided them with drugs, and forced them to perform tasks they did not want to. The accusations made against him are appalling.
Confirmed that Diddy was truly deeply evil. The evidence was right there. It was the final piece of the puzzle, revealing that Diddy had spent his entire life taking advantage of others to the point where his music empire was nothing but a front for his sick obsessions. At the same time though, Diddy's arrest somehow created a lot more questions than it answered. We all knew he was a bad guy. Don't get me wrong, but now we're realizing that it went so much deeper, with Diddy starting to look like his sick, disturbing crimes might rival those of Jeffrey Epstein or Harvey Weinstein. Not just one bad actor, but instead the leader of a criminal operation carrying out revolting abuse and exploitation. And so now, there are even more questions than there were before. How did Diddy get away with it for so long? What were the full extent of his crimes? But even more sinister, who knew about his empire of abuse and didn't tell? Who, out of his massive network of celebrity friends and powerful contacts, was joining in? The size and scope of Diddy's alleged crimes combined with his control over the industry implies a much larger web of deception and evil than most of us could have ever imagined before. It's to the point where somehow his arrest, finally putting a monster behind bars, opens more doors than it closed. So what and who was Diddy hiding? If you let Diddy tell the story of his own life, he's a hero. He spent massive amounts of resources and time throughout his career creating good optics for himself. Even as recently as 2021, one of the last magazine profiles that was ever done on him before his arrest tells us a lot about how Diddy wanted people to see him and what he thinks of himself. During that 2021 interview with Vanity Fair called With Love, Sean Combs, he talked about his new lifelong purpose that was literally sent to him by God. He says this: "I feel like God sent me. God put on my heart, what's your purpose? I was looking at all these things, preachers and different people talking about purpose, because I realized purpose is something deep. Have I really found my purpose? I know I'm making money and I'm successful and I'm changing the game, but is that my purpose? And then I really prayed on it, and God told me, your purpose is to play a part in saving the black race."
They claimed that all of this was concealed by threats, NDAs, and phony businesses. Diddy's homes were described as fortresses as well. Agents discovered cash-filled safes, hidden rooms, and cameras in every hallway. Even a list of names and phone numbers marked Do Not Contact was discovered. A man who was Diddy's former bodyguard was one of the witnesses. Another was a hotel security guard who supported Cassie's allegations against Diddy and filed a report.
New York City, with the first day of testimony in Sean Diddy Combs' federal sex crimes trial. After seating a jury of 8 men and 4 women, the prosecution delivered its opening statement, and they came out swinging. Prosecutor Emily Johnson said the public knew Diddy as a larger-than-life business mogul, but behind the scenes, he was forcing women into sex using violence and drugs to keep them in line. She said Combs had an inner circle that helped him commit sex crimes, drug crimes, other crimes, things like arson and kidnapping. And then came the graphic details from what we now know are called the freak-offs, where Diddy allegedly recorded sexual encounters that he'd arranged between paid escorts and his alleged victims, including his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. When it was the defense's turn, they didn't deny Diddy's temper. They said, yes, he can be violent. They admitted that. Remember, that's not what he's on trial for. They said, yes, he's got anger issues, and his actions might warrant domestic violence charges. It was clever that they said that. But trafficking and racketeering, again, that's what the federal case is about. The defense says those don't apply. And all that freak-off sex, according to the defense, they say it was consensual. They said that Diddy's love of baby oil, and this was actually a quote, they said the love of baby oil was not a federal crime. Cassie Ventura did not take the stand today. She is expected to be there tomorrow, and she better soon. This is another very interesting part of all of this. She is about to give birth to her 3rd child any minute now, and she's about to get on the witness stand, about to have a baby. Another twist. 2 witnesses were called today, including a former security officer at the hotel, where Diddy is seen on video attacking Ventura brutally.
The digital evidence plays a significant role in the trial. The agents demonstrated Diddy's PC's special files, hidden phones, and hard drives. The vault was even the name of one folder. Although the court has not yet revealed its contents, it may become significant in the days ahead. People began to realize that this is more than simply a celebrity issue. As the first week came to a conclusion, we are only at the beginning of what might be one of the largest music business trials in history. His business is gradually disintegrating. He went from being a huge music magnate to a sex tracker who was publicly humiliated during a highly publicized trial. Week 2 is anticipated to delve much further. Additional witnesses are scheduled to testify, and possibly members of the music industry will also come forward. Videos discovered during the raids may also be shown by the government. Because some of this material is so delicate, cameras may be blocked from the courtroom while it is playing.
And what has been an explosive start in the trial of Sean Combs today, a former member of the musical group Diddy Kane is set to return to the stand to testify in the case against him. Dawn Richard testified Friday that she saw Combs attack his former girlfriend Cassie Ventura in 2009. CNN's Kara Scannell is outside the court with more details. What all can we expect to hear from her today as she takes the stand and later this week as well?
Good morning, Sarah. So Dawn Richard will be back on the witness stand this morning. Friday, her testimony, she said she witnessed Combs come downstairs into the kitchen, take a skillet with eggs in it, and attempt to hit Cassie Ventura, his then girlfriend, over the head. She also testified that Combs dragged Ventura up to the bedroom and she could hear glass breaking and yelling. The next day, Richard said Combs asked her to come back to his home into the recording studio. She said he locked the door and then told her where he comes from. People who speak sometimes go missing. She said that she took that as a threat. So she will be back on the witness stand this morning. Her testimony is supposed to wrap up pretty quickly, and then the prosecution is going to call Ventura's former best friend. We heard a lot about her last week. Her name is Carrie Morgan. She's expected to testify, and Ventura testified she was friends with Morgan before she met Combs and was friends with her throughout the relationship until Ventura said Combs hit Morgan, and that ended their friendship. So Morgan expected to be a prosecution witness who will corroborate some of what Ventura has said. After that, they're going to call a couple of people who worked for Combs, including a former personal assistant, a former chef. The prosecution said they also expect to call an escort this week, as well as Ventura's mother. Ventura has testified that she told her mother about some of the physical at the hands of Combs at one point in their relationship. So she will be another witness that the prosecution is calling this week. And of course, this is just week 2 of what the prosecution says will be 6 weeks of their presenting their case.
Already, Diddy's attorneys are working to prevent some of this from airing. They claim that certain evidence is fabricated or misrepresented. Additionally, they are attempting to prevent the media from accessing specific court documents. Nonetheless, a number of photographic pieces of evidence were presented throughout today's trial.
Prosecutors asking, was Mr. Combs made aware of these discussions? Richard responding, yes. How did he respond? Richard telling the court that Combs told her, stay the expletive out of my relationship. Y'all expletives are here to work. Stay out of my expletive relationship. The singer also testifying that after a 2009 skillet attack against Ventura, Combs told her the next day that Cassie was okay, and if we said anything, people could go missing. Prosecutors asking Richard, what did you take that to mean? Richard answering, that we could die. But attorneys for Combs sharply pointing out inconsistencies in Richard's account, asking if she knows the difference between hitting her with the skillet and attempting to hit her with the skillet or sitting it down. Defense attorneys asking, you have about 4 different recollections of what happened that day. Richard responding, no, I recall to the best of my ability. And as for the alleged threat, asking why Richard just told federal prosecutors about it for the first time last week. You didn't tell federal prosecutors that people go missing, a comment that you testified you could die, you don't remember that? Richard responding, no, I don't know about the notes that were taken. Also Monday, federal prosecutors releasing evidence in the case for the very first time. Baby oil in Ziploc bags and pictures of Ventura's injuries, including a fat lip after the 2016 hotel assault. Today, we also heard from Carrie Morgan. She and Cassie Ventura were best friends almost 20 years. She testified that after that 2016 hotel attack, that Sean Combs came to Cassie Ventura's home. He was beating on her front door with a hammer. They never answered the door on that, and they say their friendship came to an end in 2018 when she said she was assaulted by Combs, and Cassie Ventura told her she was over-exaggerating and milking it. Reporting live in Lower Manhattan, Darla Miles, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Sure is mounting, more people are observing, and some people believe that additional celebrities may soon be brought into the issue. Rumor has it that when his daughters are having a prom this week or next, one or two well-known names may be asked to testify.
Sean Diddy Combs is missing out on major moments in his kids' lives. As the music mogul's federal trial continues in New York, Combs' 18-year-old twin daughters Delilah and Jessie enjoy their senior prom in Los Angeles. The pair arrive fashionably late to the Harbor House in downtown LA May 17th. The girls, famously known for always wearing coordinating outfits, both don strapless sparkly red gowns and matching rose corsages as they smile and pose for pics on their big night. This outing for Delilah and Jessie come after they've been in NYC along with several of their siblings supporting their dad in the courtroom amid his ongoing trial. Combs has 7 children total, 30-year-old son Justin with ex-Nisa Hilton, as well as 32-year-old adopted son Quincy, 27-year-old son Christian, and daughters Delilah and Jessie with Kim Porter, 18-year-old daughter Chance with ex-Sarah Chapman, and lastly, 2-year-old daughter Love with Dana Tran. The rapper, who's currently being held without bail at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, is charged with sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Combs has pleaded not guilty to the charges but faces up to life in prison if convicted. With his trial set to resume on Monday, as former Danity Kane member Dawn Richard is expected to continue her testimony.
Although it is too soon to predict how this will finish, one thing is certain. The first week was a game changer. The music industry is apprehensive, the public is listening, and Diddy is engaged in the most significant conflict of his life.
The rumors are that Diddy was running some kind of Epstein-type deal where he was filming everybody. If some of the accusations are true, that kind of covers things. You know, when folks vanish. Isn't it just like part of the gig? Like, here's a for instance. Like, your bit about Puffy.
How you're going to connect these two dots?
That bit is like, look, you don't have any real personal beef with Diddy, but it's got to go down. The bits are there. I'm a gold miner. I just found some gold.
You're right. Maybe I'm a sociopath.
It's not that you're a sociopath. It's just that that's part of the gig.
Yes.
Like, you're not a sociopath with your friends.
No, I think I'm maybe an empath.
Yes.
But I guess it's one of those things where, like, you justify, you go, okay, I think this person might have done something bad.
Yes.
And he can get jokes, and we're all going to tell jokes.
Yeah.
I'm not pressing charges.
Well, not only that, you're not the guy who's out there, like, calling the New York Times, hey, you know what I heard about Filet?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just like, it's there. I mean,
yes.
It's everywhere. My fucking news feed is dominated by it.
Yes.
Fox.
This isn't just rap drama. It's an expose on how power corrupts from the inside.
Week 2 of this trial could be even more combustible than Week 1, and it is only barely begun. The court may disclose fresh documents, recordings, or names that upend the proceedings once more, and more witnesses are on the way. Despite Diddy's team's strong resistance, the government is not slowing down. Nobody can predict how this will turn out. The world is undoubtedly watching, though. As Week 2 begins, share your thoughts about Diddy's case in the comments section.